Here we go. Episode 6 of Mic'd Up. I'm Michael Merlo. Thank you for joining me. We have a nice background here. Still a little bit of a work in progress, but we are getting there. And an intro also in the works as well. Very excited for that as we really get excited and get set for football season. And we're coming down to the final stretches here of a baseball season, which has been a big time up and down year for both the New York teams. We're going to talk about them and go a little bit around the league today and talk about some messy quarterback situations around the NFL and even talk a little bit of Jets and Giants if we have time. Want to keep this under 30 to 35 minutes. Anywhere in that range would be good. But thank you for joining me if you're listening. And we're going to get set right here. And I want to start with the Yankees today because the Yankees yesterday mashed 9 home runs in Tampa Bay at their spring training facility, which is, of course, the home of the Tampa Bay Rays this season. And this Yankees team has had outbursts like this multiple times this season. And not just, the big time home run games, right? We saw that early against the Brewers in that first series of the year where all they did was score runs and hit home runs, right? We remember that, the torpedo bat incidents that we finally learned that they existed. This isn't the first time that the Yankees have had these offensive outbursts. They've had them. And they actually have, according to statistics, they are technically the best team in baseball. They're second in offensive WAR. They have the most home runs. They're first in offensive WAR, second in overall WAR, first in offensive WAR. They have the most home runs. They have the highest WRC plus weighted runs created, plus in the league averages 100. They lead the league in those categories or second in those categories. But if I asked you right now who has the best offense in baseball, I don't think you would say it's the New York Yankees. According to these statistics, yes, the Yankees have the best offense in baseball, but I don't think when you ask the question, who has the best offense in baseball, I don't think you say the Yankees. I don't. The Brewers create runs in different ways that is very old school. The same thing with the Blue Jays. The Phillies have had a good offense. The Dodgers, the Padres, we talk about all these great teams. They have great offenses. Statistically, the Yankees all season long have had the best offense in baseball, but I don't think we sit here and say the Yankees have the best offense in baseball. It just doesn't feel like that. And that's the feeling I get from this Yankee team. It's been a very weird season. This has been an incredibly weird season for the Yankees. It's been obviously a lot of ups and a lot of downs. And the pitching has been inconsistent. They started off the year incredibly strong. Max Fried was a leading candidate for the AL Cy Young Award early in the season, and now he's not even in the top 5 probably of that race. He's fell off so hard. The rest of the pitching staff has had injuries. They lost Clark Schmidt in the middle of the year. They have Cam Schlittler right now, who's been pitching well, young pitcher, big kid. Will Warren has had his up and downs, but he's been better of late. Carlos Rodon is Carlos Rodon, and Luis Gil is just back from injury. It's been a weird season. And then you look at the bullpen, which has been an issue for this team. But they made the moves at the deadline, and they created this super pen. But they've had issues. They've had issues with their own guys. They had issues with Weaver a little bit right after he came off the IL. Obviously, Devin Williams has been a massive question mark and issue all season long. David Bednar's come over and pitched well and locked down the closer role. Camilo Duval walks too many guys. He's a little bit of an issue. I mean, this has been a strange season for the Yankees, but I think the most interesting part about this Yankee season, and I've had this debate with so many different people of whether or not this season's team on paper heading into the year and then looking at the team while they've played and debated whether or not the 2024 team was better than this team. And I'll still stand by the 2024 team is better than this team. But the one thing I'll say is that the lineup is deeper. It's a deeper lineup than they had last season. And it's probably the deepest lineup that Aaron Judge has played in as a New York Yankee. And what's strange is this is going to be the season where I don't think they win the division. I think the Blue Jays are still going to hold on. This could become a race. They're going to have some chances against the Blue Jays coming up in a couple of weeks. But I think the Blue Jays hold on and win this division. This is the deepest lineup that Aaron Judge has ever played in as a Yankee, I'm pretty sure. And this is not the best Yankee team that he has played on, and they won't end up being the best team. And I don't know how much I trust this team when you get to the postseason. They do the things you would like them to do offensively in the postseason that leads to success, right? We've seen hit it. You got to create runs any way you can, but hitting home runs in the postseason kind of seems like some formula that works. This Yankee team, they lead the league in homers. Now, does Aaron Judge take his MVP season into the postseason? Can Giancarlo Stanton stay healthy and stay hot heading into the postseason? These are all questions that need to be answered. And I don't know if we're going to get these answers. But Aaron Judge is having an MVP season. He is the MVP of the American League, even with the injury, even with Big Dumper over there in Seattle having a fantastic, historic year. He is still the MVP. And this team is just playing a lot better than what we saw early August, late July. They're back here. Offensively, they're back. The pitching has to the pitching has to settle in. Looks like they are. Rodon was good last night, and they beat up on the Rays there in Tampa Bay. And that's what they need to do after the sweep of the St. Louis Cardinals over the weekend. But this team feels back. This team feels like, when there were questions about whether or not they were going to go to the postseason. I remember last week saying that I didn't believe the Mets were going to go to the postseason. I didn't know if they could turn this around. Kind of felt like the Yankees would turn this around. I also don't like the Yankee competition for that AL wildcard spot that if they did continue to falter, I still believe they would have been able to hold off the Guardians or whatever other team, the Texas Rangers, would come in their way. I still like their chances there. And I like their chances right now. So the Yankees will continue this series, one more game here with the Rays, and then they start a massive 4-game series with the Red Sox, who have struggled. I mean, let's just face it, the Red Sox have lost 3 straight games now, Marlins and Orioles here. Bad losses, really bad losses. Last night had chances in the 8th, in the 9th, in the 10th, and the 11th, and they couldn't win the game or at least tie the game in the 11th. Very, very frustrating losses for this Red Sox team. The bullpen, Chapman's been great for them this year. There's no doubt about it. I don't love the bullpen. I like the bullpen. I don't love it. The starting staff has gotten Lucas Giolito back to prime. If there was ever a prime Lucas Giolito, he's back to that. Brian Bellows pitched well for them. And Garrett Crochet is probably the second best pitcher in the American League, and he's going to get a ton of votes for the AL Cy Young Award. He's been that good. So they have an ace. They have a closer. I like the offense. Don't love it. We'll see what they can do. Can they make noise in the postseason? Can they get to the postseason? I think they'll get there, but this is a massive series against a team that the Red Sox have had a ton of success against in the Yankees over the past couple of years. They just have. And is this the first game between the Yankees and the Red Sox with that Rafael Devers in years? That's going to be, I think it is. I don't think they've played since Devers hit the home run against them, the game-winning home run against them, and then they traded them the next day. I got to check that, though. But the Yankees play the Red Sox at Yankee Stadium this weekend for a 4-game set, and I'm really excited to see what happens in that one. A great rivalry and a great weekend. Get some primetime games there, and that'll be fun to watch. Now over to the other side of town, the Mets. The Mets have won 3 straight. They took the series from Seattle. Kevin and I on the Burrows yesterday discussed that, and then yesterday they went on to dominate the Washington Nationals. David Peterson has been a godsend. Besides a couple of hiccups the past few starts. His last start against the Braves at home was not good. He got taken out of the game in the 4th inning. And the start before that, when they were getting no hit against the Guardians, I think he went into the 6th or the 7th. He had given up 3 or 4 runs. He wasn't great in that one. But overall, David Peterson has been their best starting pitcher all season long. And David Peterson has been the guy that consistently goes deep into games. He's the only pitcher to pitch into the 8th inning this year. And he's done it 5 times. He's the only starting pitcher to pitch into the 8th inning. He's done it 5 times this year already. And he's done it twice here against the Nationals. We know about his complete game shutout earlier in June. But Peterson was great. He saves a taxed bullpen on Tuesday night. We know that all season long this bullpen's been taxed, and now they're well rested. Heading into hopefully is another big time start from Kodai Senga. Maybe he went into the 6th inning in his last start, and this is sad that these are the conversations. He went into the 6th. Oh my God. Well, maybe he can continue this nice stretch here of good starting pitching from the Mets, and we'll see what happens. But the bullpen is somewhat rested, and you have a big series this weekend against the Braves, where the Braves just took 2 out of 3 from you at home. You don't play well there. They got swept there the last time, I think the only time they've been in Atlanta this season. So it's a big series. And it leads into a series against Philadelphia, which is very interesting because the Phillies have lost Zach Wheeler now. And the Phillies are actually playing as we speak. But if you could go into that series against the Phillies, the Mets are currently 5.5 games back of the Phillies. If you can go, and the Phillies just took the lead, it's 2-1. If you could go into that series 4 games back of Philadelphia, make things very interesting. Remember, the Phillies have really not played well against the Mets. They have not played well against the Mets in the last couple of years, and especially at Citi Field, they have not played well. This is their first time back at Citi Field since the Mets swept them in April. Now, 2 completely different teams, but the Mets have owned this Phillies team, and they've owned them at Citi Field, and that's going to be there's a lot of pressure on Philadelphia in that series to right those wrongs and fight these demons off. And they don't have Zach Wheeler, and they just brought back Aaron Nola, who has not been good. It's going to be a very interesting series. I think they're going to see Christopher Sanchez, who's been their other best pitcher this year. Because Sanchez pitched last night. So they'll probably see Sanchez unless he pitches Sunday. But either way, it's going to be a big series. It's going to be exciting. And if you can make it interesting here and get within 2 games after that series, now you're cooking with something. You're not just talking about the wild card. You're talking about a division. So it looks like a lot right now. It's 5.5 games, but it could be worse if you're the Mets, especially with that stretch you just went on. You're still in striking distance with 7 games to go against the first place team. You're still in striking distance. So that'll be a lot of fun. And again, with Wheeler out, it's a crazy, crazy scenario with Wheeler here. He has a blood clot in his shoulder. Nobody knows if he's going to pitch again this season, in the regular season or the postseason. They're holding out hope he could pitch in the postseason, but I'll say this. The greatest weapon a team could possibly have, especially in the National League, is that kind of starting pitcher. That guy that when he's on the mound, you know you are getting a dominant performance. And if the Phillies don't have that guy, their most important piece, I don't know if there's anything this team can do. And it's a window that is closing. Kevin and I have talked about that multiple times on the Burrows, that they have a closing window. Veterans on this team, guys on expiring contracts after this season. I'm sure they'll bring them back, but you have to mention it. The Phillies are currently in a window that is closing. And without their best starting pitcher, the biggest weapon potentially in the National League, that's tough. It's a tough break. It's a very tough break for Philadelphia. So we'll see if they can hold off the Mets in the division. Again, they got 3 coming up early next week, and obviously Kevin and I will be all over that on the Burrows there. But Mark Vientos has played well here. 2 straight games with the homer. He really hit that ball. He really crushed that ball last night. But the one at the Williamsport Park, it was bad weather. The wind was blowing in. And he hit that ball a ton. And they had said on the broadcast, it's going to be tough to get a ball out here tonight. Cal Riley hit one, obviously. And you have Vientos get that one out to the opposite field. He looks like the confidence is back. He looks like he's swinging the bat well. The only issue is he doesn't really play consistently. This has to be a sign here for Carlos Mendoza to say, okay, it is important if we could get the old Mark Vientos back. If you could get the guy, or at least 3/4 of the guy you saw last season, especially later in the year, back, that is a massive, massive offensive upgrade. So they have to play him consistently and see if this is leading to something. Because the last time he started to get a little hot, they sat him on the bench. And the lack of playing time, the lack of consistent playing time for him has been insane. And it's almost unfair at this point. But I think they are going to ride him out here, and I think he's going to play a little bit. But 2 straight games with a home run, he needs to play. Brett Beatty's been hot. I mean, he had a towering shot Tuesday night against the Nationals, a towering shot. And he has to play as well. If it's going to cost Starling Marte some time, as good as Marte has been this season for the Mets, the production you could get from these younger players, offensively and defensively, it outweighs getting Marte at bats. It just does. So if you got to play Mark at third, and you got to play Beatty at second, and maybe McNeil needs a day, but I want McNeil's bat in the lineup too because he's been so clutch for this team, and he had a big night Tuesday night as well. So it's important to get these guys at bats. It's important to keep Mark going and Beatty going as they are hot. Those two should play. Ronnie's been cold. Ronnie should not play. Ronnie's got to take his turn on the bench now. And that's that. Because Beatty and Vientos seem like, especially Beatty, who for a month now has been one of their best players, has to play every night. You're not sitting Mullins at this point. He's been pretty good. So you're not playing McNeil in center. It's interesting. Carlos Mendoza has decisions to make every single night with this lineup because there's so many different players that could start and could play. You look to Lindor here. Lindor has been great. He was player of the week. He had 560 last week, and he's just continuing to hit line drives. He's hot. He's playing like an MVP at the moment. This is what he does. He goes on these stretches. He had a 2-month stretch there where he was just bad. It was after the toe, and it was 2 full months, and he was just a negative player for this team, hitting leadoff, hitting second, and he's back hitting leadoff, and he's been great. And he's playing like an MVP. And we saw this last season late in the year when they needed him the most, when this team and this franchise needed him the most. He came up in the biggest spots and performed. And he's doing that right now. And he's playing great defense as he always does. Made a couple of really nice plays last night. And now we're on our way with Lindor here, hopefully finishing this year strong and not getting himself into an MVP conversation because that seems like that's done with, but really getting those numbers up because that OPS dropped to 735, and I was sitting there saying, what the hell is going on? He's got it back into the 780s now, and he's been hot, and he's been good. Juan Soto, I've talked about this so many times on this show, on the Burrows. Juan Soto's gotten so much unnecessary hate, not only from the national media, but from the media in New York City and the Met fan. I mean, the amount of Met fans I know, and it's the older generation of Met fans that don't like him. It's incredible. And of course, it has to do with the money and the amount of money that he got. I understand that. But he's been a good Met. He's had a very nice season. He's on pace for 40 home runs. He's going to walk 100 times. He's stolen 20 bases. His defense isn't great. I get that. Stealing bags, creating other opportunities for players in the lineup like Pete, like McNeil, like Nimmo hitting behind him. It's been impressive. He's had a really nice season. And the one thing he hasn't done is he hasn't had the big hit with runners in scoring position, the Met moment, especially at Citi Field. He hasn't had it. He's came close twice. He hasn't done it yet, but he's going to get there. And this is just an off season in terms of him not hitting with runners in scoring position. He's done it his entire career. So for me to sit here and say this is going to be the next 14 years, him not hitting with guys on base, I just think it's an anomaly. I don't think this is going to continue. I think it's a 1-year thing with him not hitting with guys in scoring position, and he's going to be fine the rest of his Met career. And maybe he turns it around at some point. This is not something I believe. I think this isn't just something that's going to last the rest of the season. It could. There's a chance it does. But he could also just snap out of it like that because his entire career has told me he's a clutch player and he hits with guys in scoring position. But he's getting his homers. He's getting his numbers up. He's got an 890 OPS, on pace for 40 home runs. Can become the 5th or 6th player in Major League Baseball history to have a 40, 20, 100, 40 homers, 20 stolen bags, and 100 walks in one season. Incredibly impressive from Juan Soto, who, again, has been really good. And I have no complaints. And when you see him go to that opposite field like he did Tuesday night against Washington on a pitch, it's a perfect pitch on the outside corner. It's a perfect pitch on the outside corner. And he drives the ball the other way. And it's not just like a wall scraper out, too. I mean, hit that ball basically over the bullpen in left field. It's you see things with him that you don't see from many other players ever. That's how impressive the guy is. That's how impressive he is. And you get to watch him, Met fans, for 14 more years. 14 more years of this. And this is going to be a lot of fun. And he's going to win. He's going to be the greatest Met to ever live. He's going to break every record there is. And it's going to be fun. Mets play tonight. Kodai Senga, like I mentioned, he's on the mound. To football we go. We'll start Jets and Giants very quickly before I get to the messy quarterback spots, situations. Jaxson Dart's getting a lot of hype. We've seen this now. He's played 2 preseason games. He's looked very good. He looks in command. I think the biggest thing that I've seen from him is, number one, his teammates love him. He commands the huddle. I think he commands a locker room. The guys on the field love him. The coaches like him, and he seems coachable. That's the biggest thing. He comes from a coach in Lane Kiffin at college, a big name. He's a star. He's the star of his own team, Lane Kiffin, and he comes to a situation in New York where he's dealing with an older veteran quarterback that is a massive name, and a backup quarterback that's a name, and a 4th-string quarterback that's a name. And in this city, and I think he's handled everything perfectly, but he seems like he's in command. He seems like he knows what he's doing. He knows the offense, and this is something that's big. For a young quarterback to come into a situation where you have somebody in Brian Daboll that knows how to coach quarterbacks. Listen, it has not been a great start for Brian Daboll's head coaching career, right? He goes to the playoffs with Daniel Jones. That's great. And the last 2 years have been crap. But look at what he's dealt with. He's dealt with the Tyrod Taylors of the world and Drew Lock and obviously Daniel Jones and Tommy DeVito. But the guy could coach quarterbacks. He could coach offense. He knows what he's doing, and he could call plays. And for Jaxson Dart to come into a situation right out of college into the NFL with an offensive coach that has a reputation of coaching quarterbacks and developing them, it's a perfect situation for Dart, because now he's just coming from one situation in college to another one where he just absorbs it and can just know this offense and hopefully for a long time play in this offense. I think it's huge. I think it's huge for him to come into a situation with an offensive coach with a reputation. He did it in college. And now he's in the NFL with another offensive coach. And I think it's going to be a nice relationship. And I think he's going to play sooner rather than later. I think Russ is going to get some chances, and the schedule's brutal early on. And they're going to be better than you think, but they're not going to win those really tough games early. And maybe they're 2-5. And Russ isn't playing great. And Daboll says, okay, we're going to Dart. It's going to be sooner rather than later. I had thought it would be much later in the season. I think it's in the first half of this season that we see Jaxson Dart starting quarterback as the starting quarterback for the Giants, because he's looked so good in camp, in practice, in preseason games. He's looked so good. I think it's going to be partly because he earned it and partly because Brian Daboll is going to say, I think Jaxson Dart's the best quarterback on the roster. He has to play. So sooner rather than later for Dart, and I'm excited to see. You watch the preseason game against the Giants there, the Jets, the opposite side. You could tell this offense, this coaching staff has no trust whatsoever in Justin Fields in terms of throwing the football. I mean, there was that one drive where they ran the football every play. This is not going to be a good passing offense. Garrett Wilson is not somebody I would take in fantasy. This is not going to be a good season here for Justin Fields. It's just not. He's not a good quarterback. He can't play. There's not enough talent around him offensively outside that could help him out. Wilson's great, no doubt, but it can't just be Wilson. And then you go to Lazard and Xavier Gibson. It's not great. There's not great talent on the outside here outside of Garrett Wilson. So I don't have any faith that Justin Fields is going to be able to prove people wrong. I have no faith whatsoever. What I have faith in is the running game and the offensive line, and the offensive line coming together. It's a young offensive line, rookie tackle, second-year tackle, Elijah Vera coming back from injury. They have Tippmann there, the second-round pick a couple of years back. It's a good offensive line that they've invested in over the years, but I don't think it's going to be enough in the passing game. Running game, they're going to be great. They're going to run the hell out of the football, but it's not going to be enough. It's not going to be enough. And defensively, they're going to be good, but I think it's going to take time for them to develop. It's a brand new system. It's a brand new style of coaching with Aaron Glenn. So I don't think it's going to be instant success. I think they'll get there. I think they have good players, and I think at the end of the day, they are going to be a good defense, but I don't think it's going to be instantaneously that they're a great defense. But out on Justin Fields. And the coaching staff is telling you that they're out on Justin Fields based on play calling in the second preseason game. They've seen what they have to see. Daniel Jones is starting quarterback in the NFL again. It's fun. It's great that it's not for my team. I mean, I couldn't be happier that it's not for my team. Now, if you're Anthony Richardson here, right? Drafted number 5 overall, Shane Steichen, big-time offensive mind. He was, at the time, an up-and-coming coach. And Steichen says, I'm taking you 5th overall. Coming up. We're getting you. We're getting you. You're going to be our franchise quarterback. And you're thinking, I'm going to a good situation with a good offensive line, a good running game. Jonathan Taylor was one of the best running backs in the game at the time. And you're going to a really good situation in Indianapolis where they've had success with quarterbacks. Okay. You're feeling good. What a 180 for this kid, because he's done. I mean, what kind of confidence, what kind of signal does that give you if you're Anthony Richardson that you can't even beat out Daniel Jones, who it's not like it's a financial thing. They're paying Jones $10 million this year, $13 million this year. They could cut him whenever they want if he sucked, right? This wasn't, we paid Daniel Jones this money. We have, he really needs to get a chance. No, they brought him in to compete for the job. If he's the backup, he's the backup. If he comes in the middle of the year, he comes in the middle of the year. It didn't matter. He beat you out, and you play in a weak division that is winnable, even for this team, who the roster's not bad. They have a couple of weapons on the outside. They have a good offensive line still. Solid defense. It's not a great roster, but it's a roster that can compete for this division. And they're telling you we're going with Daniel Jones? Unbelievable. Unbelievable. And I'm a little surprised. I mean, again, I haven't followed up on how Anthony Richardson has looked in practice and looked in preseason games, but I know Jones can't be looking that unbelievable. I know he's not looking that great. And we're going with Daniel Jones? I feel bad for the Colt fan. I really do. I feel bad for the Colt fan because this is about to be some of the worst football you've ever watched, and it's the most frustrating football you could possibly watch. But for me, as a Giants fan, as a former fan of Daniel Jones, it's a little funny. And I'm happy that I'm finally out of this. But it is incredible. The amount of crappy quarterback situations around the league, when you really highlighted right now, because we're going to go to the Browns here, who named Joe Flacco the starting quarterback a couple of days ago. Kevin Stefanski goes with Flacco. Obvious choice. He wasn't going to one of the kids yet. Pickett's been hurt. He hasn't played. Kenny Pickett's probably going to get cut unless he could play in a preseason game in the last one and could show enough where he can get a 6th rounder next year for him. But they're probably going to cut Pickett. And it's going to be Shador as the 3rd string, Dylan Gabriel as the 2nd string, and Flacco as your starter until you're ready to go to the kids. I'll tell you this. Very weird that you read reports out of camp that Shador Sanders has not gotten any reps with the first team. Gabriel has. Obviously, Flacco has. But Shador has not gotten any reps in practice with the first team. Why? Is it on purpose? I have no clue. But Dylan Gabriel is the guy that Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski wanted. They drafted him in the 3rd round. That is the guy that they looked and said, this guy can run our offense and this guy gives me a chance. And there's issues with Dylan Gabriel. He's tiny. He doesn't have the biggest arm, but he feels like he could run the offense. And Gabriel's going to play. Gabriel's going to play sooner rather than later, and he's going to play more And he's going to play before Shedeur Sanders, barring injury. This is the guy they want to see. This is the guy they took a chance on. They have to see what they have in Dillon Gabriel, a third-round pick, before they have a disastrous season. They're picking third overall next year again, and they have a chance of drafting one of the top quarterbacks that come out of this draft. That is the biggest thing they need to see in what is most likely going to be a lost season. Not a terrible roster, but they don't have a quarterback. They don't have a quarterback, and I like Flacco, but Flacco's a backup. And yes, Flacco had success here. Flacco had success in the Kevin Stefanski offense. I understand that, but he's not going to lead them to a playoff spot. He's not going to lead them to 6 or 7 wins. It's going to be a bad football team. And the fans of Cleveland have to embrace that. It's not going to be a fun year. But you may see glimpses of the future, but I don't think the future quarterback is on the roster. I don't think Sanders is the future quarterback. I don't think Dillon Gabriel is the future quarterback. I think Gabriel could be a backup. Maybe Shedeur could be a backup. Dillon Gabriel can definitely be a backup. We'll see how he looks in real NFL games, though, in real NFL action. But maybe you drafted a backup quarterback in the third round. And that's not the worst thing in the world. If you drafted your future backup quarterback in the third round, okay. But next season's going to be the year they get their franchise quarterback, and they have to figure that out. They have to figure this answer out because they're going to be in a situation in what seems to be definitely a better and a good quarterback class in 2026. They're going to have to get a quarterback when they're drafting early on. Interesting. Football's right around the corner, man. Right around the corner. I had some things on the Commanders. I'll save that because I don't think they're a shoo-in to make the playoffs. I'll just tell you that. I really don't think they're a shoo-in. But we'll discuss that as we get to a later date. Big announcements coming from BTO very, very soon. Very excited about that. Kevin and I will hop on at some point and give you that. The Burrows will be Friday this week, 10 a.m., as we will recap the first game of the Yankees-Red Sox series and get ready for Mets-Braves. Pumped for that. Thank you if you've listened to Mic'd Up, episode 6. We'll talk to you guys next week, and we'll talk to you later this week with the Burrows.